All right, I chose this one because it is not my area of expertise, and it is an area where I do wish to grow. It was an article written by, it's up on 9 Marks, and it's why pastors need to care about administration. And there's two veins of thought here. I just preached through Acts 6, 1-7, which is a popular argument that pastors will use because they say, hey, we need to be focused on preaching and praying, right? That's what Peter and the apostles in the early church were clearly focused on, and they want to throw out the rest of the New Testament where there is some focus on administrative duties as well. So I kind of want to hear where you guys fall on this. And this might pertain more to the solo pastors or the small staff church guys, like some of us are on this podcast. I don't have a lot of admin help, so I'm having to seek out those who can help me in areas where I'm weak. So what is your admin workload look like, and how do you balance that from your preaching work and your study work?
I'm terrible at it. It's just not good. I am not an administrator, and I'm here to confess I have nothing else to add.
I think for me, I mean, Jeff and I keep joking about this because we used to have a side hustle back in the day where all the administrative side of that was the worst part of the whole gig.
Word.
But like, it's one of those things where like, I think as a pastor, you have to kind of grow up and like learn those things. Otherwise, you're like, unless you're just going to be an itinerant speaker traveling around the country speaking, and you're just super gifted in speaking, you're going to have to figure out basic accounting, basic how to keep a calendar up, scheduling. I remember the biggest thing I remember in math in high school, I was taking like algebra 2 or something, and I remember being so mad at the teacher. I'm like, this is stupid. Why are we learning this kind of stuff? I'm never going to need this when I'm an adult. And they said, like, it's not about learning algebra equations that's going to help you succeed as an adult. It's learning complex situations and breaking it down to be able to deal with complex situations. And I remember still thinking I hate math, but now I understand why we're learning this. And I think like there's so many times where probably my number one question asking people, other pastors, is like, what are the apps you're using? What are the tools? Like, is there a spreadsheet that you're using as a cheat sheet to like get things done? When I was a youth pastor, I hated putting people in cabins and organizing t-shirts and stuff like that. But you learn and you figure it out, or you find someone who's really good at it. And I think for me, it's, when it comes to money, I'd rather get someone way smarter than me that knows how to count well than to even deal with it. I'll count and be a second set of eyes, but I don't want to deal with the actual budgeting or accounting of it all. But I mean, for example, every month when I have to get all my receipts out and turn those in, I just put on a good podcast and zone out and just punch those things out for a couple hours, because I'm not a fan of it, but I do think it's a crucial aspect of ministry that often is like the sour side. To meet a pastor that's really good at administration that also preaches is probably also an executive pastor.
That's what I was about to say. Well, first of all, practically, have you heard of Shoeboxed? That is amazing. It's an app.
Shoeboxed?
Yep. You just take a picture of your receipt, write what it is, what you used it for, and every month it shoots them to an email in one PDF. Like, that's how I send it to my assistant, because I stink at receipts. I got that shirt that says I may have lost my receipts, but not my salvation, because that was me. But yeah, Shoeboxed is awesome. If you're listening now, check that out. But for me, when it comes to administration, that's not my wheelhouse. I wish it was, but it's not. Like, when I have it, I feel the joy leaving my body. Now, granted, a lot of people who don't have that gift, you might be more of a extroverted or attractional person, possibly. Like, that's where I would say lean into, Frank. Find someone who can do that, who can catch your flank. Here's what I run into. Maybe you don't struggle about it. Because I hate it so much, I feel like when I'm asking someone else to do it, that I'm loading this burden on them. So I'm less inclined to actually ask somebody, when there are actually people in my life who get an immense amount of joy of putting my receipts in. And I'm like, I don't understand that. But like, I'm learning, like, there are people who actually get joy out of the things I hate. And I feel like because I put that on them, what they hate, I'm actually removing ministry opportunity in my own space because of my own perceptions.
So if we don't like doing something as pastors, is that an excuse for us to do it sloppily? I guess that's another question we could ask here too. Like, should we still do it well even though we don't like doing it?
I think I think 100% you should be figuring out a way to do it well, in spite the fact that you don't like it. Like, I mean, create systems in your own life to create efficiency to be able to do it well, even if you don't like it, or immediately find that person that Delmar said that, like, there are people I've met who say, I get so much joy opening up a spreadsheet. And I'm like,
Yeah.
there's not a single cell in my body that enjoys opening that app. But if you do, then like, let's chat. And I think like to say, if I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to do it well. That's like, I mean, I know people who love preaching but hate studying, right? So like, if you love to communicate but you don't do the word work, then you're going to have really bad sermons. You have to figure out how to do the word work to be able to preach well. In the same way, you have to be able to figure out your budget if you want a church to preach it, right? So like, those things have to be done well, and you don't get the option just because you're not good at it, you know?
And I think all of us are, kind of creatives in some way. I mean, if you're writing sermons, you're a writer and you're a communicator, and that's in the creative world. And there are tasks within creative ventures that are more administrative. So, I'm a guitar player. Tim, I think you're a drummer. And like, there are tasks within that are just like, I have to get guitar picks and change strings and make sure my electronics work. But I do that because the end result is something I really want. And if you really want to disciple people, administration is just, it's a gift in the scripture. So, I mean, you can't, I would say two things about it. Number one, as a solo pastor, shout out to solo pastors, there isn't anybody in the office all week, especially during a pandemic. There's nobody ever here. But you have to be good enough at administration that you are not basically stealing from the church. Because what I mean is, you are not just doing nothing with the hours they're paying you. People are putting their money into an offering bucket to pay your salary, not for you to sit around. So there are always administrative things you can do, and it's really just not a choice. I mean, you just can't. So a tool I use, I have had to come to the realization that I can't use electronic tools. I get too distracted. And so I use a paper planner called Sacred Ordinary Days, which combines some other, it combines like daily scripture readings and a little more liturgical stuff. But it uses the philosophy. Some of the full focus planners do this, where there are 3 tasks you want to accomplish in a day, and you focus on those. And because that's really all your brain can kind of hold in your mind at once. So at the beginning of each day, you sit down and you say, okay, what are the 3 things that I have to accomplish today? And for me, Mondays are the day when I do a lot of the administrative stuff, which includes things like social media and that. But I also, now it's all thrown off, but that would mean I would just check and make sure our assistant treasurer had dealt with the offerings, and he was going to take care of putting that in the bank and all that stuff. And I hate doing that. And the receipts, like, it drains life from me. But, I think too, there's something, as I would say, uniquely as younger pastors, like, if you're sloppy with administration, you're just giving leadership chips away. You're throwing them away. Like, you're losing respect and trust. Yeah. Because you're not taking that part seriously. And most people that are boomers that I know, administration is really important to them. And there's a good reason for that. And so I think you have to honor it. And I think one thing I found is that, number one, I have to name that as a weakness and an insecurity, and not try to act like, oh yeah, I'm good at administration too. I'm not good at everything. There's a few things I'm good at, and there's a lot of other things I'm not. And you have to be willing to not try to act like, oh no, I can handle everything. Yeah, I got it. I don't got it. And then secondly, I think it's important in our communication, like from the platform, not to joke around about administration and make it feel like a second class, like gifting to people. Because I can tend to do that, like make it like, oh, I don't do that. I'm not good at administration. I don't get it. And sometimes I've found that people then won't want to volunteer to take that for you
That's
because
good.
they kind of think it's like second class.
They
to
think
them.
you won't value their work.
Yeah,
Good.
exactly.
My thing with tasks that I know I'm going to struggle with is I try to get them done first. You know, the sermon's going to get written that week, but updating the website, making sure that last week's sermon is up on the website, I try to get all that stuff done at the beginning of my week, because if I
Yeah,
don't,
that's good.
it hangs over my head, and I tell myself, oh, I'm not leaving today until it's done. And then, you know, someone wants coffee, or, you know, someone comes in, and I find a way to push it back. And so the stuff that left to my own devices, I would push to the back burner. I make myself get that done at the beginning of the week so that I can be free to focus on the stuff that
Yeah.
I do like later in the
I
week.
almost have to like clear my mind of the administrative stuff
Yeah,
to write
that's exactly how I am.
That's
Yeah.
good.
There was a I forget what article I read this in, but I talked about this on 15 Minutes with Frank, is about the swallow the frog theory.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like you just, whatever the hardest task that you don't want to do that first in the very first part of the week. And therefore, like the stuff you do enjoy, like if you do enjoy writing sermons, like that's going to come easier to you. And you're willing to do that at like midnight when your kids are asleep or whatever, because you just enjoy that so much, where you're not going to want to do receipts when kids are asleep.
Ugh.
You're going to be like,
Yeah.
I'd rather sleep, you know?
That's actually
Or
how
watch
I
Hamilton.
stack my Monday. It's a lot of administrative and meeting stuff in the morning. Now, what I do to make Monday enjoyable, though, I plan my favorite meeting of the week at 3:30 on Monday. That's our preaching team meeting. So like here is, I know that on Monday morning, we're going to be doing all this administrative stuff, all these meetings, but man, I love Mondays, because once I get to the end of it, I get to like sit with my guys and we write sermons. So like giving yourself the reward of the work, I think is very important when it comes to any weakness you have.